So, if you have ever heard that the hypothalamus is the master regulator and the pituitary gland is the master gland, that is very true. So, in this video, I'm going to be telling you how and why that is the case. So, we are going to be discussing endocrine system under homeostasis. So, because we live in a world that, in an environment or in a world where our environment constantly influence the organism, so the organism has to find ways to respond to those changes, those stimuli that the environment give to it, okay, or sends. Now, how does it do this? Now, the mechanism of that response is basically homeostasis. Because the body, what homeostasis is that the body is trying to maintain a fairly constant internal environment. Fairly constant internal environment. Now, you see, there are two words here that we use to describe the way the body responds. Now, the one is homeostasis. And by the way, this is the American spelling and the British spelling rather. Homeostasis. Then there is American spelling is just Homeo. Exactly. Now, homeostasis and allostasis. Okay? Now, in homeostasis, what's happening is that homo means the same. Exactly. Same. Stasis means constant. Exactly. Homo means the same. Okay? The same, that is equal with something. Do you understand now? Stasis means unchanging. Exactly. So, we say it's the regulation of fairly constant internal environment. So, inside your body, there is a specific temperature that the body must. For example, the body temperature is usually around 37 degrees Celsius. Okay, the blood pH is about 7.4. 7.4. Yes or no? So when these values change, okay, in a way that if they change for whatever reason, there is a possibility of hampering the body or causing harm to the body. So that's why the body tries to maintain a fairly constant. Do you understand? It's fairly constant, not all the while constant. Some people's body temperature is between 35 to 38 is a range. Do you understand? So the body is trying to maintain that range. But in allostasis, allo means another, stasis means remaining the same. Now what is happening is this, that in allostasis is when the body is now, when there is a change, that's why allo means another. There is a change that is happening to the body, okay? There's a change that is happening to the body. Now you see, an organism is predisposed to disease or falling sick, yes, to unhealthy conditions when the body is forced above allostasis. So in allostasis, the body is getting to its threshold of maintaining that constant environment. Do you understand now? Okay? So that's the difference between homeostasis and allostasis. Now, I'm going to be discussing the endocrine system because it's one of the systems through which the body maintains homeostasis. So basically, what this system does is that it communicates with the body to be able to respond to a stimulus either of the environment or within itself. So there are two systems that function for that coordination. We have the nervous system and the endocrine. The nervous and the endocrine system. Let me quickly tell us some of the differences between them. In the nervous system, I'm going to link my video on nervous system in the description. Or you can just, search on this thing. You're going to see my video on the nervous system. Now, the nervous system is fast. Okay? Fast and short acting. Okay? It is fast and short acting. So meaning that both the sending of the signal and the response of the body is fast and short. That is quick. But the endocrine system is slower, not not exactly slow, but like it is relatively slow. Do you understand? So that's why I'm putting slower here. So compared to the nervous system is slow. So for example, the nervous system um, responds in about milliseconds to seconds. Do you understand now? Milliseconds to seconds. But this one takes seconds to days. Do you understand? To respond, okay, and to also, I mean, seconds to minutes, and but for the effect can last as long as days, even weeks. Do you understand? And in fact, after the signal has been sent, the effect can continue after the action has been completed, after the response has been completed. Just the effect of that endocrine coordination can persist until for a very long time. That's just the case. Okay, as long as weeks, even days or even weeks. So this one is short, but this one is longer acting. So I said that's what I meant by the persistence of the effect. Then this one, now a similarity between them is that both of them use chemical messengers. They both use chemical messengers. Messengers. Now the chemical messengers though are different. This one nervous system use what we call neurotransmitters, while these ones use what is called hormones, and that is basically what we want to discuss today: hormones and how the endocrine system coordinates the body responses. Then another difference between them is that these ones have direct connection with the target organ. Another similarity between apart from chemical engineering is that they are the source, and the organ they target is called target organ. So both of them have target organs. Only that the target organs, these ones have direct connection with their target organs, but these ones have indirect connection with their target organs. Do you understand now? Indirect connection with their target organs. Because this one works by nerve fibers that are connected to every part and every internal organ of the body. So you see, it goes from the brain and spinal cord to every part of the body. Just see my video on this. I have explained all of this. Now let's begin with this guy, endocrine system. We say they have indirect connection. Now, beginning from there, it is the reason why we call endocrine system a system that is made up of ductless glands. Ductless glands. Now, why do we call them ductless glands? There are two types of systems in the body. We have the exocrine and the endocrine. The endocrine. Okay? So now the exocrine glands, the endocrine system contains the exocrine system consists of exocrine glands. Exocrine glands are glands that have their secretions in ducts. Their secretions have ducts through which they go out of, through which they pass to the target organ. Is that clear? Example of such glands that will be here are your this guy in your skin, sweat glands. Do you understand? Your sweat glands, okay? Your sweat glands that secrete sweat. Even your sebaceous gland of the skin as well. The sebaceous gland will be there. Do you understand? Then for smell also, sudoriferous gland. All these glands are exocrine, okay? But the endocrine glands are ductless glands. So the endocrine system consists of ductless glands or endocrine glands, and they are ductless because they don't have ducts. Here's what I mean by duct. Look at your skin, for example. This is the skin here. This is the skin. Now, you are going to see this is your hair shaft. And make sure you see my video on skin as well. Now, you are going to see a particular gland close to this side. Do you understand? that lubricates the hair there and basically your skin. Now, this guy is called the sebaceous gland. It passes through, it has a pore here that is a duct that passes through. Then there are also glands there that we call sweat glands. They also have a duct that open to the external here. Do you understand? So those external parts are called ducts. So they are called pores, rather. I'm sorry, pores. Those external openings of the opening of this duct to the outside of the skin is called pores, and you can see tiny holes on your skin. So those are ducts. But you see, for endocrine, they have no duct. So their secretions basically go directly into the bloodstream. So that's why they are not direct. Do you understand? Because they don't have ducts that is conveying them to the target organs. So they just they are released into the bloodstream and they flow with the blood. Okay? And they have certain receptors. So that's why if a hormone is secreted somewhere, we're going to treat everything about the hormone that you need for your exam. So make sure you just stick with me from beginning to the end. I'm trying to make sure you understand, because understanding will help you to answer exam questions. I'm going to talk to you about those particular aspects where they ask questions. You see this, they usually ask about organs that are not, glands that are not ductless. And that's why I gave you their examples here. Then the ductless ones are the ones that are hormones. And we're going to treat all the glands here. Now, the ductless glands, I said, they secrete hormones, and the hormones flow in blood vessels. And those blood vessels, when they flow, for example, if the blood leaves the heart to the kidney, and the hormone that is there is supposed to operate in the ovary of the woman, it will not, the receptors for that hormone in the blood are not in the kidney. So that blood will flow back to the heart until the blood flows to the ovary, where the hormone that is inside can act, because the ovary will have the receptors for that hormone. All right. So that's basically the endocrine glands. Now there's a particular organ rather, that has both endocrine and exocrine functions, and that is the pancreas. That's the pancreas. Okay? Now the pancreas has both, it secretes substances in both endocrine and exocrine systems. Okay? Its exocrinal function is in digestion. Watch my video on digestion as well. And its endocrinal function is in this endocrine system that I want to treat. So now let's begin with the hormones now. Okay, so I don't know if this place will be able to take my diagram, but just watch. Let's try to, all right, so we are going to begin with the brain. Okay, well, we are going to begin with the brain. Okay, so at the base of the brain here, you are going to see this is like the mid-sagittal section of the brain. So you are going to see a small, ball-like gland. Okay, it has a stalk. We call it a stalk. It has a stalk by which it attaches to this region of the brain that is called the hypothalamus. You see this portion above it there is called the corpus callosum, that holds the two hemispheres of the cerebral hemispheres together. Then underneath it is the thalamus rather. This is the thalamus. Then below the thalamus is the hypothalamus. Let me bring my guy here, the pituitary gland here. Okay, so this is the way it looks. I'm going to bring it here. Now, we have what looks like this, okay? Now, this place here is the base of this place here, is the base of the thalamus, and it's called the hypothalamus. It's called the hypothalamus. So what does that mean? The hypo means below, thalamus means, the thalamus is the relay center of the brain. It gives it responds to, it is the point for TAP, I told you about this. Touch, pain, and temperature, pain, and I forgot it. Just watch that video, okay? Watch that video. But the point is, hypothalamus means the thalamus is the relay center of the brain. Then just below it is the hypothalamus. Then there is a stalk. There are two stalks emanating from the hypothalamus. The first one is called the anterior. Both of them are called the pituitary glands, okay? But the first one in front is called the anterior pituitary gland. So this is one in front, this is one at the back, okay? This is called the anterior pituitary gland, and this one is called the posterior pituitary gland. Please make sure you are jotting down because of the space on the board, I'm going to be cleaning some things. Now watch. I'm leaving this diagram here because we're going to need it throughout, but I'll clean this, so make sure you are jotting. Now, this the pituitary gland has another name. The pituitary gland is called the hypophysis. I think that's the anatomical name. That is not, I think. That is actually the anatomical name. Hypo means below. Physis means growth. Physis means what? Growth. So we call it the below growth. Okay? Why is it called the below growth? Because it's growing under the hypothalamus. This region I call the what? The hypothalamus. Now the hypothalamus is the master regulator of the endocrine system, and I'm going to show you how. Now, this stalk that connects the hypothalamus with the pituitary glands is called the infundibulum. Infundibulum. Okay? You notice, you remember in our this thing, the female reproductive system, we also saw the infundibulum. Alright, so here's my point. Now that this is the posterior pituitary, this is the anterior pituitary. Now, here's what happens. The hypothalamus secretes a number of hormones, and those hormones tell the pituitary gland to secrete their own hormone. Now, embryologically, the posterior pituitary is called the neural hypophysis. It's called the neural hypophysis. Now, why is it called the neural hypophysis? It is so because neural hypophysis. It is so because, you see, the posterior pituitary is an extension of the hypothalamus, but the anterior pituitary grows from another region and snaps to the hypothalamus. That's why it is called the adenohypophysis. Adenohypophysis. Now, adenohypophysis means the adeno is talking about gland. Gland. And this is the way to remember it. AA, exactly. Anterior pituitary is the adenohypophysis, that is gland below growth. Then this one, neuron below growth. Is that making sense? Now, the way the hypothalamus communicates with the adenohypophysis is through blood portal system. Is that clear? Now, that's why it is adeno, because there is no direct communication between the hypothalamus and the adenohypophysis, the anterior pituitary gland. Now, because this guy is in the nervous system, it's going to have a nerve that will connect to a region here. Okay? So nerves connect to a region here. The nerves, let me shorten this guy. The nerves connect to a region here. You know, these are nerve cells. Watch my video on nervous system. So this region here is called the median eminence. Median eminence. Okay? Eminence. E-M-I-N-E-N-C-E. Okay? So then from this region, it uses, by nervous coordination, nervous impulse, it sends impulse here to tell this guy to secrete some hormones. Okay, so basically, this guy will secrete hormones and will tell this guy those hormones will tell this guy to secrete his own hormones. While this guy communicates with this guy through direct nervous coordination. So what happens is that this guy secretes his own hormone, the hypothalamus secretes his hormone, and stores the hormone in the posterior pituitary. So it's not like it's the posterior pituitary that secretes the hormones I'm going to list here. The hormones are secreted here and they are stored here. Okay? This portal system is called the hypophyseal portal system. Hypophyseal portal system. Okay? Now, what are the hormones that the posterior pituitary secretes? There are two hormones that are secreted by the hypothalamus and are stored here. There are two hormones there, and those are the prolactin and the they are antidiuretic hormone. Then here, prolactin. We have the antidiuretic and the prolactin. Those are the two hormones that are stored here. Now, what is the function of antidiuretic? For this is ADH. That's the short form, ADH. So if you see that, that's what it's talking about, antidiuretic hormone. Now, what is antidiuretic? What's the function? So the word anti means against, right? Against. Then the word diuresis. The word uresis is urination. Okay? If I say I want to perform uresis, it means I want to urinate. Okay? Now diuresis means uresis simply means production of water, removal of water. So because it's happening in two arms, in both kidneys, so we call it di. Exactly. Then hormone. Okay? So the hormone that is against production and removal of water from the body. So what happens? How it functions is that when the blood volume has reduced because you have urinated so much, it is the hormone that is secreted to stop the removal of water or removal of water from your body. So basically, this guy elevates blood volume. Okay, it elevates blood volume because it stops the removal of water so that the body can be the blood more water can water will not leave the body again. More water can be the water in the body can be conserved. Do you understand now? Okay, so another thing is it controls the osmolarity of the body. You understand now? The osmolality of the body. Because when you urinate, your blood becomes concentrated. Why? Because the solids that are dissolved there will now be more than they used to be, gram for gram. The solids in solvent, gram for gram, solids will now be higher than they used to be after urination. So for that reason, production of urine will stop so that the body will take in water. That's why you urinate so much, you drink a lot of water to be able to, reduce that osmolality. Do you understand now? So it controls the osmolality of the body. So that's basically the function of antidiuretic hormone. Now, I will discuss how it functions under excretion, or when I get to the other hormones that also aid in increasing blood volume. Now, here's the reason why I said so. You see, these hormones don't function independently. Exactly. There is no. It's not like a particular function is appertained with one hormone. They function together. Do you understand? They function together. But some of these features are performed by one more than the other. Do you understand? So that's why I'm not discussing that blood volume that removal of water and all here. Okay, yet, because I want to talk about excretion also, how the hormones help in determining what to excrete and how to excrete. Now, prolactin. So the word pro means to promote, okay? To promote. To lact is from the word milk. Lact is the Latin word for milk. Remember, vegetarian starts from vegetarian. Lacto, ovo, vegetarian. So lacto, that is milk and egg. Ovo means egg, milk and egg, okay? So the word lacto there means milk. So it means it promotes lactation. It promotes what? Lactation. Now, before the birth of a child, the mother does not produce milk in the breast. Is that clear? She doesn't produce milk in the breast. But once the baby is born and it begins to suckle, or maybe sometimes the baby is crying, okay, the prolactin will be triggered in the brain, such that, the pituitary, such that it will tell the glands, the mammary glands, to begin to produce milk. Do you understand? That's why, in fact, some women, when they hear the crying of their baby, the milk will begin to drop from their breast. So that promotes lactation. That's the word, prolactin. Okay. Now it has an inhibitory factor that inhibits it. So it's not like it is not being secreted in the body of the woman. It is being secreted, only that there's an hormone called the dopamine. It's also called prolactin inhibitory factor. The dopamine inhibits this prolactin. Why? Or inhibits lactation. Why? Because there is no baby at that time, do you understand now? So no baby to take the milk, so it will inhibit the production of milk. Right. Now don't forget, don't mistake this with one hormone I'm going to discuss soon. That one is called, oh Jesus, I just misplaced this. This is antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. I'm sorry. Oxytocin. I just mixed it up. The oxytocin is the one that is produced by the posterior pituitary. Oxytocin. This one allows for milk ejection. I'm very sorry. The anterior pituitary is the one that produces prolactin for milk production. This one is for milk ejection. I'm very sorry. So oxytocin is for contraction of smooth muscles. It aids in the contraction of smooth muscles. Oxytocin aids in the contraction of smooth muscles. Now, where are the smooth muscles? The smooth muscles are in the uterus, the uterine lining of the female, and as well as the mammary glands. Okay, they consist of smooth muscles. So it helps their contraction. Now, the oxytocin is also a feel-good hormone, like the dopamine. Dopamine is also a feel-good hormone, but oxytocin is the one that helps to regulate feeling for people. So the feeling of love and hatred as well. Exactly, the feeling that makes you, love people or hate them is, because of this hormone, oxytocin. So you see the way it's regulating your responses now. Okay, so that is oxytocin. So it does two things. Solidifies relationship, okay, both positive and negative responses. Then for milk ejection or let down. The way it does that is in the uterus. When the baby is to be born, the baby will begin to be pushed down the cervix. So as the cervix is being widened or pushed apart, that will, send it will send a signal to the brain, and the brain will cause the production by the posterior pituitary of oxytocin, and oxytocin will act on the uterus such that the uterus will be causing the uterus to contract. Do you understand? So it will contract. So it's like a negative feedback mechanism. As the cervix is widening, as the head of the baby is trying to enter into the cervix, it will send response to the brain, signal to the brain, and the brain will respond by secreting oxytocin, the posterior pituitary of the brain, and the oxytocin will cause the uterine lining to push inward, to contract. Do you understand now? So, and the cervix will be widening out. So that's the way it functions. Now, so look at the two hormones that you need to know for the posterior pituitary. Now, don't forget, it is called the neural hypophysis, and it communicates with the hypothalamus, or the hypothalamus communicates with via nervous impulse or nervous signal. But the hypothalamus communicates with the anterior pituitary via nervous to blood portal. Is that clear? Right. So now let's talk about the anterior pituitary hormones. Before we talk about that, we have to know the hormones that this guy first secretes. So the way it works is that this guy secretes some hormones. Those hormones will now tell this guy to secrete their own hormone. So I'm going to clean this place, this part. So the hypothalamus, the reason why it is called the master regulator is because it secretes many hormones, okay? So it secretes most of the hormones, and those hormones tell these guys to do their thing. So the hypothalamus secretes the following hormone. It secretes, the first one is, now this is in no particular order, okay? It secretes gonadotropins, releasing hormone. Now, gonadotropin releasing hormone means that when you hear the word tropin or trophin, it means that it will go somewhere else, okay, to go and cause the secretion of another hormone. Tropin means the secretion of hormones has not ended. So it means that this thing will go to the gonad to secrete hormone. Is that clear? So gonadotropin releasing hormone means that it will cause the release of gonadotropins. Is that clear? Now the second one is the growth hormone releasing hormone. Growth hormone releasing hormone, GHRH. This one, the short form is G sub N RH. Exactly. Now the third one is the corticotropin releasing hormone. Corticotropin releasing hormone. That's this GHRH. This is CRH. Then the next one is thyrotropin releasing hormone. What does that mean? It will go to somewhere to release thyroxine, exactly, to release its own hormone. This one is also called thyroid stimulating releasing hormone. Do you understand now? Alright. Then the last one is the prolactin. So that was one I misplaced. Prolactin. Prolactin is released by the anterior pituitary, don't forget. Oxytocin is released by the posterior pituitary. It is the analogous to prolactin. Posterior oxytocin, anterior prolactin. Okay, this one is the one that I said causes the production of milk, but we'll get to that soon. Now, there are other hormones. These ones are stimulatory. All these ones, they are stimulatory. Okay, they are all stimulatory. But there are some that are inhibitory. Okay, there are two major ones you need to know. Those are the somatostatin. Soma means body and statin means stop, right? So somato, body, statin, stop, right? So it stops the growth hormone. It inhibits somatotropin, exactly. It inhibits growth hormone. Then the other one is the one that inhibits prolactin is called the dopamine, okay? The dopamine or the prolactin inhibitory factor. Prolactin inhibitory hormone or inhibitory factor. All right, but these are the 5 that are of immense consequence to your exam most of the time. So now let's talk about the gonadotropin. The gonadotropin releasing hormone will be produced here and it will travel through the apophyseal portal system and get here and tell the cells here to release their own hormone. Keep in mind, I told you the name of these cells, they are called target cells, right? So the gonadotropin releasing hormone will stimulate, not surprisingly, the release of gonadotropins. Exactly, gonadotropin. Now, what is the gonadotropin? I told you when you hear the suffix dropping, it means that it is going to stimulate the release of another hormone. Okay, so what does it do? Now it will go to the gonads to tell it to release its own hormone. Is that clear? And there are two forms of gonadotropin. The first one is called the luteinizing hormone. The luteinizing hormone. We call it LH for short. LH. And the second one is called the follicle stimulating hormone. FSH for short. Follicle stimulating hormone. Now, what are their functions? Now, there is a part of, if this is a female, let's start with the female. There's somewhere here that's called, now this is going to be the ovary of the woman. The ovary, okay? So now in this ovary, the reproductive system of the woman. Now this place is the ovary, okay? And this is the uterus, okay? Now what does this gonadotropin do in the female? It goes to the female body, to this reproductive structure of the female, and so there are two. This one, luteinizing hormone, what it does is it stimulates the release of egg. Okay, before the egg is released, first it is ripened, right? So follicle stimulating is the one that stimulates the maturation of follicular cells. Maturation of follicular cells. You know the stages of the female egg cell. We have the Graafian follicles. Then the Graafian follicles become primary oocytes. Then from primary oocytes, we have secondary oocytes. So that maturation is controlled or stimulated by the follicle stimulating hormone. So it will cause the Graafian follicles here to mature. After maturation, the luteinizing hormone will now cause the ovary to release it in a process known as ovulation. So the luteinizing hormone controls ovulation. Don't forget, luteinizing hormone controls what? Ovulation. So ovulation is just the release of that egg that has been matured by the follicle stimulating hormone. Now the luteinizing hormone also does something. During the ovulation of that egg, okay, the luteinizing hormone will cause the production of what we call progesterone by the ovary. The ovary will produce two hormones actually, the progesterone, and the second one is the estrogen. Now, the progesterone is caused by the action of the luteinizing hormone, don't forget, and the follicle stimulating hormone causes the release of estrogen. The estrogen is released by the follicles. Now, what does the progesterone do? The progesterone is called the pregnancy hormone. Don't forget, it's called what? The pregnancy hormone. P for P. Progesterone, pregnancy hormone. What it does is it will go and stimulate the thickening of the blood of the endometrium of the woman. The endometrium will begin to thicken with blood vessels. So as it thickens with blood vessels, why is it thickening with blood vessels? I've explained this in my video on reproductive system of female. It is thickening with blood vessels because it is preparing the womb for pregnancy. Remember that this is the womb, right? The uterus is the womb. So it is preparing that womb for pregnancy. Okay? So once the egg is released, it will stimulate progesterone to be secreted, and that progesterone will cause the thickening of the lining of the uterus with blood vessels. So that at the end of the day, if fertilization occurs, if reproduction fertilization occurs, there is going to be invagination or implantation of the egg or the zygote that is formed in the wall of the uterus. But if the female does not mate, what will happen is that this thing will now be shed. You understand? So, during the female reproductive cycle, the first 14 days, roughly 14 days-ish, is called the follicular stage. Exactly. It's called follicular stage because it's the stage where the follicles are ripening. So after ripening of those follicles, then to be ovulated. So then the next 14 day-ish or so is called the luteal phase. The luteal phase is the phase where the luteinizing hormone act. It begins with ovulation, then the thickening of the wall cell. Okay, so so that's basically the case. Now, estrogen has a negative feedback too. The main negative feedback is that as more and more estrogen is secreted, less of follicle stimulating hormone will be secreted. So it is the transition to luteal phase. It causes the transition to the luteal phase. So don't forget that the first stage, follicle stimulating hormone ripens the egg, then those eggs produce estrogen, and those estrogen cause follicle stimulating hormone to reduce, then luteinizing hormone begin to act by causing the ripened egg to be released in the process of ovulation, and the cycle ends once the female is fertilized, once there is no fertilization, but it continues if estrogen and progesterone will keep, because they are called, this one is particularly called pregnancy hormone, but both of them help in the nurturing of the maturing this thing. Because the placenta, don't forget, is also endocrine in function. It secretes estrogen, the placenta of the baby, of the woman and baby. All right. So the placenta will be of the baby, yeah? Yes. So that's the function of the gonadotropin. Now let's go to the second one, which is the growth hormone. No. We are not done because that's the female. Now what about the male? What about the male? Now in the male, you have what's called testes on both sides. You have your the male sex structure here. Now these are your testes. Now the testes is where the gonadotropins will go to. We have the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone, like we said. Now, inside the testes, we have what we call seminiferous tubules, okay? So this portion here is the epididymis, and from the epididymis we have the vas deferens. So now, inside here we have seminiferous tubules, like wire-like network, tiny tubules. Inside those seminiferous tubules are cells, two types of cells. We have the Leydig cells and the Sertoli or Sertoli cells. Now, the Leydig cells are stimulated by the luteinizing hormone. Yes, that's where I remember too. L for L. Okay, FSHSS. Exactly, that's how to remember. So the Leydig cells are the ones that help in the release of another hormone called testosterone. And the follicle stimulating hormone are the ones that stimulate the Sertoli cells to cause sperm production. Okay, so but of course this luteinizing hormone Leydig cells and Sertoli cells rather work together to produce sperm, okay? But it is mostly attributed to the Sertoli cells. Follicle stimulating hormone causes Sertoli cells to produce sperm, Leydig cells to produce testosterone. The testosterone is one of the androgens, one of the male sex hormones, okay? It regulates sexual, characteristics of the male, exactly. All right, at puberty. So that's basically it for the male reproductive system. Now, remember the epididymis store sperm, and the testis creates the sperm or produces the sperm inside the Sertoli cells. But usually, they don't mention Sertoli cells and all, except you are dealing with hormones. If it's under reproductive system, remember they also have the seminiferous tubules, because both cells are inside the seminiferous tubules. Now, let's now go to the next one, which is the growth hormone. Now, the growth hormone stimulates the production of protein synthesis. So in the cells, okay, in the target cells, once the growth hormone is released, it goes to most of the cells of the body, except the non-growing cell part of the body, which is the sperm. Every other cell of the body has receptor for growth hormone. They have receptors for growth hormone. And keep in mind, I mentioned the fact that receptors are the ones by which the hormones communicate with the cell. Exactly, by which the hormones identify the target cells. So every cell of the body, apart from the autosomes, have the sex cells. That's what I mean by autosomes. Those are the chromosomes. Apart from those guys, every other cells, non-somatic, that's what I wanted to remember. So every other somatic cell of the body, has receptor for growth hormone. So when the growth hormone gets there, it will stimulate production and protein synthesis, which could result in elongation of cells, such as cells of the bone or cells of, growing of the cell, enlargement of cytoplasm, etc. So those are the things. That's basically the simple function of the growth hormone. The next one is corticotropin. Now, the corticotropin hormone, releasing hormone, will go to the anterior pituitary and tell the anterior pituitary to release what? Remember, the growth hormone releasing hormone will go here also tell this one to release growth hormone. So the same way, CRH will go to the anterior pituitary to release what? To release adrenocorticotropic hormone. To release adrenocorticotropic hormone. Now, what is the adrenocorticotropic hormone? The name is just long, it's simple. Tropic, what does tropic mean? It means it still goes somewhere to cause the release of another hormone, right? Adrenal, that's where it goes to. It goes to the adrenal gland, to the cortex. The word cortical is from the word cortex. Exactly, this one is from the word adrenal, okay? Cortex, exactly, tropic. So it means that it goes to the cortex of the adrenal gland, all right, to release its hormone. Now let's draw the adrenal gland. So somewhere, you see this body here, this human that I drew here. So somewhere around here, I'm going to clean this now. Somewhere around here, we're going to have one of the kidneys. And make sure you see my video on kidney. I, did a lot of explanation on that. So make sure you see that video. Now, just on top of the kidney is a cap or cap-like structure that is called the adrenal gland. It's called what? The adrenal gland. It is the cap of the kidney, the adrenal gland. Okay? Now, this adrenal gland has internal and external parts. The internal part is called the medulla, and the external part is called the cortex. Now, in the cortex is where this guy acts, adrenocorticotropic hormone. So let's slash it open now. If we slash it open, we'll have a structure that looks pretty much like this. Okay, there are two layers. So this is the internal portion. This will be this portion here is the cortex. Okay, the cortex is now divided into three. The cortex is divided into three. We have the zona glomerulosa. This internal one is called zona fasciculata. And the innermost part of the cortex is called the zona reticularis. Please help me check if it's capturing it. The zona reticularis. So now, what does the gold zona? Is it showing you? Okay. So what does the zona glomerulosa? What does it secrete? The zona glomerulosa is one that secretes what we call um, glucocorticoids. We have mineralocorticoids, or there's a name we come aldosterons. Yeah, aldosterons, aldosterons. Okay, the aldosterons are called mineralocorticoids. Okay, and we also have the cortisols. The cortisols are secreted by the zona fasciculata. So zona glomerulosa, aldosterone, zona fasciculata, cortisols, zona reticularis, the androgens. Then the medulla, the innermost portion, this is the medulla here. The medulla now secretes catecholamines. Catecholamines, amines. Okay, see my video on amines as well. So the catecholamines are basically two: the adrenaline and noradrenaline. I'm going to talk about it when we get to other parts of the endocrine system. We have in the okay, we can already talk about it since we are talking about adrenocorticotropic. So the adrenal medulla secretes two. We said the adrenal gland and the no sorry the adrenaline and the noradrenaline. Of course, you already know that the word amine tells you that they have an amino group attached to them, right? So that's why the name is adrenaline and noradrenaline. In USA, this is called epinephrine and norepinephrine. Okay, so but we use adrenaline in your exam. So now adrenaline is the most secreted. Okay, we see the percentage we see is about 80% here to 20% here. Exactly, 80% adrenaline, 20% of the time no adrenaline. Now, what is the adrenaline and no adrenaline? The adrenaline is the fight or flight hormone. We'll soon get back to this. Just listen to me. We'll soon get back to this. The fight or flight hormone, that's the adrenaline. Then the noradrenaline is the one that suppresses it. Is that clear? Okay. Now, the aldosterone is also called mineralocorticoid. So this is where I want to talk about that excretory property that I talked about in the antidiuretic hormone the other time. Now, aldosterone, they are called mineralocorticoid because they aid in the reabsorption, not absorption, reabsorption. And you have seen my video on kidney. I talked about the production of urine. In the production of urine, we talked about selective reabsorption of materials back into the bloodstream. Okay, there are some substances that have been filtered in the kidney that needs to be reabsorbed, that they are useful in the body, so the body will now reabsorb them back. So it is the aldosterone or mineralocorticoids that direct or that tells the body to specifically reabsorb minerals. Okay, so what are the minerals? We have sodium. Sodium is the principal one. Then we have potassium. We also have calcium. We have magnesium, etc. So those minerals that are needed by the body, it is the aldosterone that stimulates their reabsorption in the kidney. Do you understand now? So basically, how does it do? You know that in the kidney, the basic functional part of the kidney is called the nephron, right? And a typical nephron looks pretty much like this. Then we have collecting ducts. Now, this is our collecting duct. Now, just before this collecting duct, on this duct, this is the glomerulus. We have the Bowman's capsule. This is the Bowman's capsule. There is a network of capillaries here that forms the glomerulus. Don't forget, it's the blood vessels that form the glomerulus. glomerulus. Then there's the proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and the distal convoluted tubule. Now on that tubule, okay, there are portions there, there are holes. Those holes are called aquaporins. So I'm assuming this is a hole, for example. So they are called aquaporins. They are called aquaporins. So it is through those aquaporins that minerals are removed. Is that clear? It is through those aquaporins that minerals are removed. And you see, molecules that are too large cannot be reabsorbed there. Is that clear? So, but something like sodium will be reabsorbed. And remember, where sodium goes, water follows. Remember that in diffusion and osmosis, where sodium or where salt goes, water follows. So sodium salt will go out. So because of that, water is reabsorbed. Is that clear? So one of the functions of the aldosterone is that it also increases what? Blood volume. So together with that antidiuretic hormone. Do you understand now? So this guy will elevate. So this is the principal guy. Aldosterone is the major guy that increases blood volume. And of course, if it's increasing blood volume, it's also increasing blood pressure because there will be high amount of blood to flow, you understand, to the body. So that's the function of the aldosterone. Now, what about the cortisols? The cortisol is under the group of hormone that is called glucocorticoids. This one is mineralocorticoids. This one glucocorticoids. Okay, I want to tell you a group of hormones. There are classifications. Okay, they are steroid hormones. They are steroid hormones. That's why you have the word oid here. Oid. And of course, you see glucose, right? So basically, it makes sure that glucose is available in the blood, okay? So that there is, it functions with adrenaline in a way. That's why you see, I told you that the functions are not really specific to one. Not all the functions, rather, are specific to a particular organ. So, for example, when there is need for flight, okay, there's need for secretion of high metabolic, your metabolic rate is increased. And we'll soon talk about the thyroxine, which also increases body metabolism. Okay, so how does the body metabolism increase? Because there is need for continuous breakdown of glucose. So glucose breakdown to release ATP, right? So the ATP will provide energy for the body to maybe fight or fly. Do you understand now? So the glucocorticoid make the glucose available. Do you understand now? Then the androgens, they are the male sex hormones. Okay, but the androgens, they are not as abundant as produced by the testes. Exactly, I told you that the Leydig cells is the secretion of testosterone. So these ones just have binding proteins. Okay, they have the binding proteins are secreted by follicle stimulating hormone in males. Follicle stimulating hormone produce androgen binding proteins. Is that correct? Androgen binding proteins. These ones too, they are just under the same group, okay? They are under the same group. But once puberty is attained, androgens are not really as functional as the follicle stimulating hormone that will be acting in the testes. So as much as the testes. Is that clear now? So they don't play as much role as the testis hormones. The hormones that are secreted in the testis, they play more role after puberty is attained in the male. Exactly. So that is it for the adrenocorticotropic hormone. Now, how about this guy now, the thyrotropin releasing hormone? Now, what hormone does it secrete? I'm going to show you. The kidney also secretes a number of hormones, okay? Maybe we should quickly talk about the kidney since we have already drawn it here. So I'm going to clean this part here. Okay, I've talked about prolactin cell. Now, so the kidney also secretes two major hormones, which are the renin and erythropoietin. the renin and erythropoietin. Now, don't mistake this renin for renin, for this one. This one is an enzyme that helps in the curdling of milk, curdling or coagulation of milk. You understand? That thing they use to make cheese. Wara. You know wara now. So is this hormone that acts on it that helps you to curdle milk? That helps milk to curdle. But this one is a hormone. The one with single N is a hormone that is secreted by the kidney. It plays a role in I just forgot now. As I mentioned, renin. I think it's also about blood volume, the volume of the what's it called now? The production of the water, absorption of water in the kidney. I remember. But the erythropoietin is hard to forget. Why? Because erythro means erythro from red blood cell. Red blood cell. Okay, so it increases the production of red blood cells. It increases the production of red blood cells. Why does it need to do that? Because you know the liver and the kidney, they are continuously working. Okay, they are continuously working. And they are, if you have seen the color is reddish brown, right? So it means it needs to be fed with a lot of oxygen because it's actively working. So that's why it needs to increase the production of red blood cells. Production of red blood cells. All right. Now, let's quickly talk about the thyrotropin. The thyrotropins. Now, the thyrotropin releasing hormone will go to this portion. Now look at my diagram. I'll continue the diagram now. This behind. So this is like Adam's neck. And this is like Olabisi's throat. Okay, so now the thyrotropin goes to the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland. By the way, did you go about solving questions for the maths?
Yes, I think for chemistry, but
Have you gotten better?
yes, but from now, those like by also, I don't really understand.
Bicycling. Okay, in my video.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, leave bicycling. You won't see bicycling in your jam. Yeah. You do it in 100 level to 120 level. So you still have to watch it. Alright. So, excuse me. So they go to the thyroid gland. Now, where is the thyroid gland? The thyroid gland is this is the pharynx, this is your throat. So just somewhere, this throat now divides into two here. There is the one that is behind, okay, is the digestive, the esophagus, esophageal tube, the tract, GIT. Then the one in front is your trachea. So there is a hormone, there's a gland rather, that hugs it. It's hugging your trachea. Okay? That is called the thyroid gland. It's called the thyroid gland. It also has behind, at the back of it, there are two hormones at the back. Now there are actually four parts to it, okay? We call them parathyroid gland. The parathyroid. I'm sorry, there was something I wanted to mention. You see, based on response, the endocrine system is divided into two. We have three. Itself, the endocrine, then we have the apocrine, autocrine rather. Autocrine. Autocrine response of the hormone is of the endocrine system is when the hormone is released and it acts on itself, on the cells that release it. Exactly. But paracrine is if it is released to function or cause effect on a nearby cell, paracrine. Then the endocrine itself, where it is acting on a distant organ. All right. So I remember that shit. I remember that because of the parathyroid hormone. Now, the parathyroid gland. Now, the thyroid hormone, what does it secrete? The thyroid gland. Okay, sorry, I misplaced it again. Now you remember that we have the pituitary. So in the anterior pituitary, thyrotropin releasing hormone will be secreted. It will come to the anterior pituitary in the let me go again in the hypothalamus. The anterior the thyrotropin releasing hormone will be secreted. It will go here and tell this one to secrete thyroid stimulating hormone. So the thyroid stimulating hormone is the one that will now go to the thyroid gland to tell the thyroid gland to secrete its own hormone. And what's the hormone that is secreted by the thyroid gland? It's called the thyroxine. It's called the thyroxine. Thyroxine. I don't know how to spell it now. Thyroxine. As I say I don't know how to spell it, I'm not looking at the board. I think it's THY, I can't remember. You have me check your dictionary, please. Thyroxine. So, thyroxine hormone. There are two forms of thyroxine. Is that we call it thyroxine or thyroid hormone? Okay? There are two forms. We have the T3 and the T4. Okay? The T4 is converted to T3. So, it's also about 80% this, 20% this. TH. So, this is correct. Alright. So, the T3 is called T3 because it is triiodothyronine. Okay, while this one is just tyronine. Now, I said this one is reverts. This one always reverts to this because it's the active form of thyroxine. Now, what does the T3 do? Now, it increases, it regulates, not just increases, it regulates body metabolism, regulates metabolism. So, for example, when as I am teaching and doing something now, you can already notice sweat, okay? Because my body metabolism is increased. Is that clear? So if you are sweating also and you are performing exercises, you sweat because of your metabolism has increased. Is that clear? But the process of what's it called now? Now there's also the opposite where it reduces metabolism. So, for example, fat people tends to they have a lot of fat in them because their body is storing up. Do you understand? It's storing up rather than release. What's it called now? Fat. Do you understand now? Okay. So the process is known as iodine trapping. It's called iodine trapping. But the point is, it regulates the metabolism of the body. And together with the adrenaline and the other guy, the only difference is just that this one is like on a continuous basis. Adrenaline is specific for just fight or flight. Do you understand now? All right. Now, we have discussed the thyroid hormone. Now, there's another function, before I discuss parathyroid gland. The other function is that it decreases, it secretes what is called calcitonin. And the calcitonin is the hormone that reduces blood calcium levels. Exactly. So it reduces blood calcium levels such that if calcium is too high in the blood, it will be absorbed into the bones of the body. So that's calcitonin. And if calcium is too low in the blood, there's another hormone that is secreted by the parathyroid. Okay? It's called the parathormone. Parathormone. Now, what does that one do? What does that one do? Hey, Jesus. What does that one do? It increases blood calcium. It raises blood calcium when the calcium level of the blood has dropped. There's one hormone that I have not talked about here. A gland here is at the back here. Is it at the back here? Here? No, it's in front here, sorry. It's called the pineal body. Pineal body or pineal gland. Okay? It secretes one hormone too. The hormone is called melatonin. Not melanin, okay? Melatonin. It's melatonin that regulates sleeping cycle. Exactly, your sleeping cycle is regulated by melatonin. Okay, so that's that for parathyroid and thyroid hormone. Now, what else? We have not talked about the hormone. There's an hormone here. So I'm going to clean this now. There's a gland rather here. So this guy at the back, okay, it enters the stomach, through the cardiac sphincter and goes out through the pyloric sphincter. Then just at the base of this stomach, here, there is a leaf-shaped organ there. It's called the pancreas. Okay, so it's the pancreas that I said has both exocrine and endocrine functionality. What is endocrine function? There are cells there that are called islets of Langerhans. Okay, islets of Langerhans. Now, Langerhans islets they are named after Langerhans, a person. They are the cells that secrete these two hormones. And what are the two hormones? We have the insulin and glucagon. So, for example, now what glucagon? Now, what does it do? The insulin is the one that this is how I remember it. Glucagon is like saying glucose go. So that is when the blood glucose is low, this one pumps glucose into the blood vessel. That's glucose go. That's how to remember it. Then insulin is the one that reduces blood glucose. So this one reduces blood glucose. So let's just put BG as blood glucose. Then the glucagon is the one that increases blood glucose level. So they are analogous to each other. When the blood glucose is high, when there's too much glucose in the blood, the insulin will absorb some into the body so that it's not too much in the blood and thereby reducing the blood glucose. Then when the blood glucose is low, glucagon will release it. There are two ways by which glucagon acts. The process by which it releases that glucose is called gluconeogenesis. Then the action of insulin, where it removes glucose from the blood, is called I said two ways for this one. That's gluconeogenesis. I'll tell you the meaning. Then there's also glycogenolysis. Glycogenolysis is this: break down glycogen to release glucose. Gluconeogenesis means glucose from new source, origin, genesis, new glucose. Is that clear? So that's release of glucose into the body. But insulin inhibits glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. That's what insulin does. It inhibits those two processes. And also glycolysis. It also inhibits, it inhibits just these two, not glycolysis. Exactly. Yeah. So that's it for the islet of Langerhans of pancreas. And I told you it has exocrine function. The exocrine function is enzymes, right? It releases enzymes into the small intestine. The enzymes that it releases, when you see my video on digestive system, you are going to see them also. Trypsin and trypsin. These two hormones, and there's also I've forgotten this one that begins with E. These two are secreted by the pancreas and they are released into ducts. You see, this is a duct, okay? So that's its exocrine function. That's its exocrine function. So which one have we not discussed? We have discussed the testes and the ovary and the hormones that they secrete. So that is the overview of the hormones. Let me quickly classify hormones for you. There are three classes of hormones. We have the protein or peptide-based hormone and the steroid-based hormone, and the amino acid-based hormone. So there is no hormone that is carbohydrate-based. Is that clear? Now, protein or peptide-based, it is greater than 100 amino acids. It will be protein-based. If it is less than 100 amino acid, it will be peptide based. Remember, amino acid plus amino acid make peptides, right? So less than 100, we call it peptide based. So most of the hormones that are secreted by the pituitary gland that we just mentioned, by the anterior and posterior pituitary, the gonadotropin hormone, growth hormone, corticotropic, thyroxine, prolactin, all those guys, they are what? They are protein-based hormones. The steroid hormones are primarily the ones that are secreted in the adrenal cortex, which are what? Mineralocorticoid and glucocorticoid. Those are the two major. And androgens. Androgens are also steroid-based. Is that clear? Then the amino acid-based hormone, they are, I can't remember. Give me an example of amino acid-based hormone. Okay, so those are just the classification. But most hormones are peptide-based. I mean, then you might ask that, is there no carbohydrate? I've told you that there is no specifically carbohydrate-based hormone, only that some hormones might have receptors on them that are carbohydrates, okay? So we call those peptidoglycans or peptidoglycans and proteoglycans. Exactly. Peptidoglycans, peptides that have glycogen or carbohydrate based, and proteoglycans that have. So that's primarily it. This will be the end for this video. Do also subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification whenever I drop a new video. You'll be notified. God bless you. Share the video with your friends. Okay?